They laughed at the way I walked. They whispered when I entered the room. They called me the broken one. At family dinners, at funerals, even at my father's grave. They thought I would always be weak, always be dependent, always be beneath them. So I smiled, lowered my eyes, and walked away in silence. Because they didn't know one thing. I wasn't leaving as the disabled son. I was returning as the owner of everything they had. My name is Ethan Walker, and in my family, I wasn't known as the son. I was known as the problem. A spinal injury when I was 17 changed everything. One accident, one smashed guardrail, one wheelchair for life. Overnight, I stopped being Ethan. I became the burden, the liability, the one who couldn't carry the Walker name forward. My father never treated me that way. But after his death, the rest of my family made sure I felt exactly how expendable I was. My father, Richard Walker, died of a sudden stroke. He built Walker Industrial Supplies from nothing. One warehouse, 2 trucks, and a reputation that scared competitors. At the funeral, I sat in the front row, my wheelchair polished, my suit carefully pressed. Behind me, I heard the whispers. He can't even stand. How would he run a company? Poor Karen. She has to deal with him now. Brandon should inherit everything. They didn't even lower their voices. Grief didn't protect me. Blood didn't protect me. Only power could. And I had none. At least that's what they believed. 7 days later, law office, cold walls, warm smiles from people who wanted me erased. Karen sat on one side with her son Brandon, confident, relaxed, like the outcome was already written, which it was. The lawyer cleared his throat. As per the will of Richard Walker, everyone leaned forward. All controlling shares of Walker Industrial, all properties, all business authority. Brandon smirked at me. Will be transferred to Brandon Walker. The room broke into murmurs. Someone laughed. Actually, more than one person. They didn't even look at me. Because in their minds, a man in a wheelchair doesn't run empires. He's given charity. Then the lawyer added, Ethan Walker is to receive a monthly support stipend of $1,200. That's when full laughter broke out. My own family, laughing at my inheritance. Karen leaned over and whispered, At least now you'll always be taken care of. Taken care of. Like a pet, not like a son. I smiled, and that smile terrified her years later. Outside the office, Brandon blocked my wheelchair. Don't worry, bro, he said. I'll let you keep your old bedroom. Everyone laughed again. Karen added quietly, You should be grateful. Without us, you'd be nothing. And that's when I realized they didn't just take the company, they took my dignity, my last name, my position as a man in my own family. So I did the only thing that confused them. I nodded, smiled, and left. No argument, no begging, no courtroom drama, just silence. They thought I had surrendered. What they never understood was silence is not surrender. It is loading a gun, what my family never knew. Before the accident, I was studying. Corporate finance, business acquisitions, legal structuring, asset manipulation. And after the accident, I studied harder. From my hospital bed, from my wheelchair, from the position they thought made me harmless. They mocked my body. I trained my mind. They inherited the company. I learned how to legally take it back. 3 nights after the will reading, at exactly 2:17 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. One message. You were never meant to walk away with nothing. Attached was a photograph, a legal document, old, Yellowed edges, official stamp. My father's original will, not the one they read. This one said something very different. I read it once. My hand started shaking. I read it again. Slower. Then I understood everything. The original will was signed 3 years earlier, before my accident, before Karen gained control of the house, before Brandon ever touched the business. And in that will, 51% ownership of Walker Industrial was left to me. 29% to Karen, 20% split between Brandon and Tyler. I wasn't just included. I was the majority owner, the chairman, the final authority, which meant only one thing. The will they read publicly was forged, and forgery at that level isn't just betrayal, it's a federal crime. The sender wasn't anonymous for long. His name was Mark Ellison, my father's former private accountant. The man Karen fired 3 weeks after my father died. The man who vanished with zero explanation. His message followed. I kept quiet while your father was alive. I tried to quit when he died. They threatened my family, but I kept copies of everything. Then he sent more files. Bank trails, altered timestamps, witness replacements, digital signature overlays. Karen and Brandon didn't just change the will. They rebuilt it digitally and legally enough to survive surface inspection, but not forensic examination. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I sat completely still in the dark. And I asked myself one question. Do I want revenge, or do I want ownership? Revenge fades. Ownership remains. So I made the decision that night. I would not expose them immediately. I would take everything silently first, then let the truth buried under their own success destroy them publicly. I didn't want them arrested. I wanted them ruined. What Brandon didn't know, Walker Industrial was built on. Government logistics contracts, defense equipment supply, federal infrastructure partnerships, which meant any ownership forged through fraud becomes void, seized, refunded with damages. And I had proof. But instead of reporting them immediately, I made one call. To Robert Hayes, the most dangerous corporate attorney in Chicago. He didn't laugh at my wheelchair. He didn't feel sorry for me. He only said one sentence. If your documents are real, you're not disabled, son. Pause. You're just early. For the next 6 months, while Brandon posted luxury cars on Instagram, while Karen hosted charity dinners in my father's name, I built a legal execution chamber around them, quietly. We attacked their commercial credit lines, their federal compliance status, their offshore accounts, their shadow vendor contracts, but never all at once, one nerve at a time. Pain without visibility is the cruelest kind. Month 4. Brandon's main supplier cut all access. No warning. No explanation. A $2.4 million shipment canceled in one email. He stormed into the office screaming. Karen blamed the market. Markets don't cancel contracts overnight. Investigations do. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. Karen. First call in almost a year. Her voice was different. Not sharp, not dominant. Careful. Ethan, are you still upset about the will thing? I smiled and said softly, which will? Silence exploded on the line. Her breath caught, and for the first time in her life, Karen Walker knew the past was no longer buried. The first federal letter didn't arrive at their office. It arrived at their bank. A silent compliance freeze. No headlines, no sirens. Just a notification stamped with one line of authority. Pending verification. Ownership documentation. Within 20 minutes, 3 operating accounts were locked. 2 outgoing wires were reversed. Payroll showed processing delayed. Employees panicked. Managers lied. Brandon broke a glass in the boardroom. Karen told everyone it was a technical issue. But technical issues don't have badges behind them. Walker Industrial was privately held, but its debt instruments were public. The moment the verification freeze hit, credit risk spiked. Investors don't wait for truth. They wait for exits. Within 48 hours, 2 lenders recalled loans. 1 insurer canceled coverage. A government contract was placed under review. Revenue didn't drop, trust did. And in business, trust is oxygen. Robert Hayes asked me, "Do you want them scared or broken?" I answered, "I want them to use all their money trying not to be both." So we didn't expose the will yet. We let pressure turn them into amplification machines. Every bad decision multiplied the blast radius. Karen started moving money again, trying to protect it. She didn't know every movement was now mirrored. Last month alone, Karen transferred $412,000 through a Delaware Shell, LLC, a Cayman Holding Trust, 2 layered crypto bridges. She thought she was hiding it. She was actually documenting intent. Intent turns fraud from civil to criminal. I watched the ledger grow. Not excited, not angry, just patient. Emergency board meeting, no press. No public minutes, just 12 people who suddenly realized they might personally be liable. Brandon tried to take control. He failed. One director asked the only question that mattered. "Is your ownership clean?" No one answered. That silence cost them the company. Robert filed a sealed motion. Petition to stay all asset transfers, pending verification of compromised will documentation. 3 judges reviewed it. 1 signed it. That signature pulled the pin, 6:04 a.m. Federal agents, not loud, not dramatic, just thorough. They seized office servers, home devices, private cloud storage, backup hardware, 2 accountant drives. Karen fainted. Brandon argued. Tyler ran upstairs to get his laptop. An agent caught him at the stair rail and said, "Leave it. We already cloned it." That same afternoon, I moved my wheelchair into the federal courthouse. Not hidden, not announced, just present. When Karen saw me through the glass, her face changed. No rage, no disgust, recognition, like seeing a ghost that never died. Mark Ellison testified under protection. He showed. The original digital will file, the overwritten metadata, the forged witness timestamp, the payment records for the notary. The judge didn't react. Judges rarely do, but the clerk stopped typing for 2 seconds. That told me everything. Ruling. The public will is declared presumptively compromised, which meant legally it never existed. Ownership reverted to the previous valid document, the one that named me as majority owner. Karen dropped into her chair. Brandon whispered, "That's not possible." But truth doesn't care about belief. No press conference, no celebration, just a quiet board vote, chairman designation, my name at the top. Ethan Walker, majority owner, acting chairman. I didn't walk into the company. I rolled in, and no one laughed this time. Resume payroll. That's it. No revenge speech, no threats. Salaries hit accounts that night. People cried in the break room. Power doesn't scream, it stabilizes. Charges filed, fraud, coercion, conspiracy, financial exploitation, bail denied. Her charity board removed her name within an hour. The same donors who praised her morals deleted her photos. Public reputation doesn't fall, it gets wiped. Brandon wasn't charged first, he was audited. Audits break people slower than prison. Every hidden deal unraveled. Insider trading. Kickback suppliers. Offshore profit skimming. By the time the cuffs came, he was already bankrupt. Karen asked to see me. I went, not for closure, for symmetry. Behind the glass, she said, "You planned this." I answered, "No, you did." She stared. I added, "You just assumed I was too broken to finish it." I didn't move back in. I sold it. Every dollar went into employee debt relief, physical rehabilitation programs, legal defense for exploited workers. They used my disability as a joke. I turned it into infrastructure. They thought disability meant weakness. What it really means is that the world already tried to break you once, so fear doesn't work anymore. The courtroom was full, not with family, with journalists. Karen sat between two marshals. No makeup, no jewelry, just gray skin and shaking hands. Brandon sat behind me, not beside her, behind me, like a shadow that lost its owner. The judge adjusted his glasses and spoke calmly. "Karen Walker, you were trusted with power. You used it to erase a disabled heir, forge a federal document, and attempt to steal a legacy built over 40 years. Pause. Power given in trust becomes a weapon when corrupted. Gavel strike. 9 years state prison. Full asset seizure. Permanent corporate ban. Karen collapsed. Not dramatically, just emptied. Brandon stood before his own hearing a week later. He tried one last trick. He claimed I planned everything, that I manipulated the evidence, that I used my disability as camouflage. The prosecutor leaned in and said one line. "Then where did you learn to steal from your father?" The courtroom laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was finished. He got 7 years federal. As they led Karen past me, our eyes met. No hatred, no anger, just understanding. She finally saw it. I never needed legs to stand. 1 year after the takeover. Profits stabilized, federal contracts reinstated, all offshore accounts dismantled, full transparent audits published, people stopped whispering my name. They trusted it. Behind the scenes, I launched something quiet. A corporate pathway for disabled professionals, injured veterans, occupational survivors, paid training, executive placement, no charity branding, just opportunity without pity. On the anniversary of his death, I didn't bring flowers. I brought the original will, printed once, framed once. I placed it beside the stone and whispered, "They thought you left me nothing." Wind moved through the trees. They were wrong. Karen lost her name. Brandon lost his future. Tyler vanished into obscurity. The family didn't break loudly. It dissolved, like paper in water. I still sit in a chair, still need assistance, still wake from pain some nights, but I no longer wake from doubt. They took my inheritance. They took my home. They mocked my body. They underestimated my patience. One final note arrived 6 months ago. From Karen. 3 lines. "I thought you were weak. I was wrong. I hope you never become me." I didn't reply. Some lessons are final. They took my inheritance. They kicked me out. They turned my disability into their favorite joke. They thought power lived in legs, in voices, in rooms they could lock, but power doesn't walk. It waits. And one day, it rolls back in. With documents, with judges, with ownership. They laughed at me at the will reading, until the law spoke again. And this time, it spoke my name.